How does he do that?
But he would write, and apparently he had a nice family, all of whom turned out very well educated. But of course, when Nick died, a lot of them were aware of it because it was in the Cornell Alumni News. So I heard from him then, and he kept writing every Christmas. But anyway, that was our life at Cornell.
Wait, I wanted to ask, how did you decide what to name Mom?
Well, we had an argument because he loved the name Vicky, and there was a Victoria in the family, and Vicky would be a cousin to Tamaim and Selma.
Yeah, I remember her.
And Vicky was married to somebody named Harvey Kassab. Their last name was Kassab. And Nick liked that, but I thought it sounded like an old lady, you know, Queen Victoria. So I liked the name Gloria, and he thought it was nice too.
Where did you get the name Gloria?
From the Christmas Carol. It's so majestic and so beautiful. I like that. But
and what about the middle name?
And I liked Anne because I was a big fan of the Anne of Green Gables books.
Oh, I didn't realize that. How nice.
Anne spelled with an E, and my Aunt May and she and I used to read to each other. Aunt May and we read every Anne of Green Gables book. Anne of the Island, Anne of Avonlea.
And you read them to us when we were growing up.
Anne's House of Dreams. There's about 7 in the series. And we read to each other and really thoroughly enjoyed them. So that was Gloria Ann. Gail, I liked that name, but then the Elizabeth, that was Aunt May's middle name. And then Ginny Alice, that was my stepmother. And then Shelley, that Louise is also a family name. Louise Burgott. Aunt Louise was Jacob Burgott's sister. So it turned out that one of the, I guess it's Queen Elizabeth's daughter, Anne, has all those middle names also. They're British as well as I selected them.
In order.
Anne, Elizabeth, Alice, and Louise.
That's her name. Her first name is Anne, right?
Mm-hmm. Because in the British royal family, they have lots of names. So anyway, Ithaca was fun in a lot of ways because we were very casual and we didn't have much money, but then nobody else did, so we got together and, you know, cooked spaghetti and stuff that was pretty inexpensive. But then I had the job working at the home extension department.
Even when Mom was born?
When Mom was born, I started typing at home, and Nick he was always good about carpentry, and he made a rack, like a drying rack, and he had it on pulleys, so I could raise it up to the ceiling, and that's where I dried the diapers. But our apartment also had a door to the back porch, which went down a big hall, and by leaning over the railing, you had a clothesline on a pulley too, that I could hang stuff there. But it was the 3rd floor, and it was way down to the ground below, and I was not too keen on that clothesline. But I washed the clothes in the bathtub, leaning over the bathtub, which was hard on the back.
Mm.
But and when Gloria got to sleep at night, I typed, and I used to get, depending, I'd type a thesis for somebody, and they'd have to have the original and 4 copies. So I charged like a dime for the original copy, and 4 for each carbon, or 5 for each carbon. So sometimes for a master's thesis, I could get $30 or $40. So I made some money that way, and I just typed papers for people. And that was about all the money that was coming in. But that was not too difficult to do because the baby was asleep and my husband was at work or at the lab.
Was she a good baby?
Unfortunately, I knew too much about children, and I had books that I had read, and you know, I not always interpret the symptoms correctly. I'd think if she cried that she had a stomach ache or that she was hungry, so I'd rush to feed her, and maybe I was doing it too fast. In other words, she was my learner bicycle. My I remember it said in the book that when they were 6 months old, you should introduce egg yolk into their diet. So I very bravely poached an egg and chopped it up and put it in the oatmeal, put it in her cereal. And she got so sick, she broke out in a rash. And of course I hated myself for subjecting my darling baby to this awful stuff, and she didn't like it, didn't like the taste of it. But you know, there were certain rules that came with we studied all these subjects in home ec, and I thought I knew a lot about it, but I never had actually had a baby. So how did I know? My cousin Roger was 10 years younger. I was 10 years old when he was born. I never got to take care of him too much. I don't think I even changed diapers. I never babysat except for older kids. So I didn't really know too much about babies. When I was in the practice house, which was part of my education, we had to spend one term as a practice family, and one of us had to be the mother. One of us had to be the laundress.
Don't forget, did you tell them you had a real baby?
And we had a real baby. And we had a real baby, and we had to...
Whose baby was it?
It was a ward of the... It was up for adoption. It was a ward of the county.
Awful. That's horrible.
It had been taken away from the mother as an unfit mother. So they were waiting to have this baby adopted, but we got to have her for whatever we were there, 6 weeks. And we got to observe what she did and how she changed. And we had a pediatrician come to the house, which was in a big apartment. We had a pediatrician come and discuss what we were doing and how we were doing it and what we should do. For example, I was appalled because she told us to, when we cooked carrots, for example, you don't dump the cooking water out into the drain, you save it. Then you put it in the baby's formula, so she gets all the vitamins that are cooked out of the vegetable. I thought, doesn't that sound yucky to add carrot juice to the baby's milk? But this is what the pediatrician told us. And how to introduce a new food, you know, like mashing it up and so forth. But our baby had a hernia. She had been born under pretty bad circumstances, so where her little, the umbilical cord, it was like a huge, like a half a grapefruit hernia. So we had to strap that and keep that under control till she could have surgery. And she was a good little thing. I have pictures of her. Her name was Anne.
Do you still have pictures?
I found some because a woman called me up one time and she wanted to interview some people that had gone through that apartment living experience. They don't no longer do it, but at that point, that was a part of our senior year. So I knew something about, but everything was a learning experience with Gloria because I'd never done it before. I used to, you know, worry about her crying, and I knew something was wrong. But the neighbor down the stairs we'd meet at the mailbox at the bottom of the stairs. She said, "Well, I heard your baby cried last night. Is something wrong? Is she sick?" And you know, done. So I had a rocking chair, and I rocked my fool head off lots of nights. And that's why she's so well adjusted today, because she got all
Thank you, Mommy.
all this snuggling and walking.